really excited to be here today. We're at the start of the incubation of the HLEC project, all around the history of the Salters. It's really great that we're going to be talking to local community members. They're going to do the research, and today is the first session. We've got Alan Crookham and Victoria Lane, who are going to be doing presenting some information about how they can become researchers, the community people who are joining us today. So really excited about the project, really excited to be here today.
I'm a professional archivist and I'm head of the Library and Archive at the National Gallery. That's where I work.
I'm Vicky Lane and I'm an archivist too, and currently I'm a sort of Lloyd's of London archivist.
That are related to this area, one on the Mayflower ship and one on Ada Salter.
I got involved in was fundraising for the Salter statues, and last year I coordinated the Salter centenary celebrations.
So I'm Tom Pilcher, I'm a UK official and work on health, global health, and I'm very interested in the connection between health and housing specifically.
I'm Judith Green. I've just got a general interest in history, particularly of this area, possibly more towards London Bridge.
So the idea was that the Chief Magistrate would keep the records of Athens, and then that's how we get the word archive. And I mean, our modern concept of archives really dates from the 19th century, along with the development of history. I suppose history as a discipline, as you know. So that's where it comes from. So it had that sort of official nature, but then the word archive has expanded. So it's no longer just like the minutes, say the minutes of the Labour Party focused on electing an MP or that. Over the past century, it's expanded because the notion of history, I think, has expanded. There are lots of theories about archives and what they are and what they mean, but in practice, you'll either have your own archives, or you'll have to go somewhere, either physically or digitally, to look at something.
All the archives are biased because they're dependent on the materials that are given to them, and they're all set up for a purpose, as Alan said, and so they're not wrong, but you have to take that bias into account.
Before I left, or just as I was leaving 20 years ago, they were going paperless. Now, if they had gone bust during COVID, their records would not have existed on paper anymore, would they? So to what extent are archives these days actual or virtual?
But most places now, and COVID has certainly accelerated this, have shifted much more towards digital. And actually people are keeping digital archives. So, but there's a whole sort of industry out there about digital preservation.
Subject. And that means that you can actually access any of your records. You actually have the right to be forgotten as well, and the right to actually add amendments whilst you're alive. Our archives can actually decide to transfer records under the Data Protection Act and archives in the public interest, and then you can't change them, you can't do anything to them.
Often, when we talk about archives, it can suddenly become like everything becomes an archive, and that's not actually true. I think actually your definitions to start off with are really good. But for a big national museum, they usually hold their own archives. They usually what we call a place of deposit, which means that the National Archives recognises them, and we get inspected by the National Archives and that kind of thing.
And there's a biography of him by Fenner Brockway, and I read this, and it was mentioned at the beginning that he also had a remarkable wife, Ada Salter, and she was mentioned from time to time. But that made me interested in finding out what she was remarkable for, which wasn't in this biography. So that was what drove me to write my biography of Ada Salter.
Right, you join us again, and we're continuing with the research panels for the Ada and Alfred Salter project. It's fantastic how the guys are really kind of finding their own ways and kind of means of doing this. And actually we're going to go around the group and everybody's going to introduce who they are, and they're just going to tell us what panels they're actually doing as part of the Salter exhibition.
My name's Yvonne. I'm doing the religious and spiritual motivation for direct action in terms of Ada Salter and Alfred Salter as well.
My panel is what I wanted to focus on was the actual work that Ada did with the young working class girls here, because I knew she did something, but I hadn't really come across much.
So I just picked three who are from slightly different areas. So Evelyn Lowe, who was into education, first woman chair of the LCC. Grace Kimmins, for the reasons you've suggested. So children, disabled children, of course her legacy goes forward at Chailey Heritage. And Mary MacArthur, who was from Scotland, but she was a trade unionist, came from a very conservative background, but wanted to right the wrongs.
Right, we're now at Southwark Archives, the next part of our kind of training for our heritage volunteers, which we've got here. It's a great space, it's a great resource, and it's great that the repository for Southwark were able to come in and see all the wonderful resources they'll have around Ada Salter and Alfred Salter, and it's great to kind of be in this space. And today we're going to be, we've got the guys here, but we've also got Dr. Patricia Dark, who's going to be doing some training for us. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for coming. My name is Patricia. I'm the Borough Archivist for Southwark, which means I'm in charge of the service, and more generally I'm in charge of collecting and looking after the borough's historical records. So all of the really interesting records that people want to see, so things like schools records, the records of first responders, hospital records, and the records of the poor law unions are held at the London Metropolitan Archives, which is the county level record office for London. Half of our archival records are records of people and organizations. So those can be personal papers that were donated to us by the person themselves or their family. So that would be things like diaries, letters. We have the writings of a lady who wrote lots of poetry. Or organizations, so things like trade unions, political parties, social, sports teams, social groups, amenity groups, pressure groups, pretty much any organization that's based in Southwark, we might have the records of.
What I'm really interested in is the work she actually did with the young girls of this area, and to try and sort of bring out we all know it was tough, but taking like a 12-year-old girl, what were her expectations? Did she have any expectations? Did society have any expectations?
I was trying to link up Riverside School with the local population and hopefully find that the school catered for working class kids with no hope, and the school gave them some hope.
Okay, you join us here at the Salter exhibition. It's been a great project this, funded by HLF and lots of consortia of funders. And it's amazing what the heritage volunteers have actually created. They've worked with all sorts of heritage professionals, Alan Crookham from the National Gallery, you've got Victoria Lane from Lloyd's in London, we've also got Patricia Dark, Dr. Patricia Dark from Southwark History Library. So these guys have been trained and they've created the most wonderful panels you can see here today. And it's great, we're amongst the Salter properties that Ada Salter created as part of the Bermondsey Revolution here, and what a fitting site to have the exhibition here in Wilson Grove.
It should be. It's the heart of Ada's heritage, isn't it? People are coming up and they're saying, so what have these houses got to do with the Salters? Have these houses really got something to do with the Salters? And I'm saying, yes, these are the 54 cottages that Ada designed.
Incredible woman, who I think on the surface looked very, quiet and didn't look like a revolutionary, but actually was a very, very good.
It was a Bermondsey Revolution. Look around you.
Yes.
Okay, and fantastic that you were involved in this project and you've been able to animate that history as a local community member.
Primary materials and the value of that, and letting them have their own interpretation. Because the valuable thing about this project is each of the stories is completely unique based on that individual who's doing the research.
The reason I put my hand up is because he needed 10 researchers, he said, so he'd only got 9. Oh, he said, how about you do one, Sheila? So I'm really proud of our heritage, and I've been really delighted to have been involved with John's project, and this is the last event. We thought it was going to be the centenary, because 2022 was the anniversary of Ada becoming Mayor of Bermondsey and Alfred becoming MP. So we thought it was just going to be last year, but it sort of developed into so many people wanting to do so many things, not just John, but the project spread over into this year as well. So with any luck, this might be the last one.